The execution platform stood in the center of Blackwood Pack territory like a rotting tooth, wooden planks stained dark from decades of spilled blood, silver restraints bolted into the center post. Aria Winters knelt there now, wrists bound behind her back, while 300 pack members formed a crescent moon around her judgment. She was 18 years old, and they were going to kill her for being broken. "Aria Winters!" Alpha Marcus Cole's voice boomed across the clearing, each word a hammer strike against her skull. "You have been found guilty of bloodline contamination. As a Wolfless defect, you pose a genetic threat to pack purity. The council has voted. The sentence is death." Aria kept her eyes on the ground. She'd learned years ago that meeting their gazes only made it worse. Her knees ached against the rough wood. The silver cuffs burned her wrists with a cold fire that would prevent any last-minute shift, not that she could shift anyway. That was the whole problem. In the crowd, her stepsister Celeste stood pressed against Damon Cole, the Alpha's son. Damon's arm wrapped around Celeste's waist with casual possession. Yesterday, those hands had pushed Aria away when she'd approached him about the mate bond humming between them. "I, Damon Cole, reject you, Aria Winters, as my mate." The words had felt like silver in her veins, but not as much as the laughter that followed when Celeste kissed him right there in the pack dining hall, her perfectly glossed lips claiming what should have been Aria's. "Look at me when I'm speaking to you, girl." Aria raised her head. Alpha Cole stood on the platform's edge, arms crossed over his broad chest. Behind him, the executioner checked the edge of his silver blade, the traditional weapon for formal pack executions. Clean, efficient, supposedly honorable. There was nothing honorable about this. "Do you have anything to say before sentence is carried out?" The Alpha's tone suggested he hoped she wouldn't. Keeping this brief would let everyone get to the bonfire celebration faster. Aria's father stood in the front row. Beta Lucas Winters wore his dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. His face showed nothing, not grief, not regret, not even acknowledgement that the daughter he'd raised for 18 years was about to die. His new wife, Margaret, stood beside him, one hand resting on his arm in a performance of supportive concern. Her lips curved in the barest hint of a smile. They'd planned this. All of it. The realization crystallized in Aria's mind with sudden clarity. Her mother's death 10 years ago, ruled an accident during a rogue attack. Her father's remarriage 3 months later to a woman who immediately relegated Aria to Omega duties, cleaning, cooking, serving. The rumors that started when Aria didn't shift at 16. Wolfless, defective, contaminated. The way those rumors spread through the pack like poison until even children threw rocks at her in the streets. And now this. The ultimate solution to their problem. "I have something to say." Aria's voice came out stronger than she expected. Alpha Cole gestured impatiently. "Make it quick." "I'm not wolfless." The words fell into the clearing like stones into still water. "I'm just late." For a moment, silence. Then someone laughed. The sound spread through the crowd like wildfire, harsh, mocking, cruel. Celeste's voice rose above the rest, sharp and delighted. "Just die already so Damon and I can mate in peace. Some of us actually have wolves and futures." Damon didn't laugh. Aria caught his eyes across the distance, brown eyes that had looked at her with confusion yesterday, clouded by something she couldn't name. He looked away first. "Enough." Alpha Cole nodded to the executioner. "Proceed." The executioner stepped forward. Aria could smell the silver blade, acidic, wrong, burning her nose even from feet away. He raised it with both hands. The angle would sever her spine first, then her spinal cord, then her throat. She'd read about execution protocol once in the pack library. Funny the things you remember. The blade caught the afternoon sunlight as it started its downward arc, and something inside Aria broke. Not her will, not her spirit. Something deeper. something that had been wrapped around her soul since childhood, bound so tightly she'd never known it was there. Like chains made of moonlight and ancient magic, suddenly snapping under the weight of survival instinct. Finally. The voice in her head wasn't her own. It was older, wilder, furious with a rage that had been building for years. They tried to kill us. They actually tried to kill us. Before we continue, I'd like to know, who's watching this at night and who in the morning? Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. White light exploded from Aria's body. The silver cuffs shattered. The execution platform cracked down the middle with a sound like thunder. The executioner flew backward, his blade spinning away into the crowd. Aria felt her bones breaking and reforming, her spine elongating, her senses sharpening into something beyond human, beyond normal wolf. She was shifting. But this was nothing like the shifts she'd watched her packmates perform at their coming-of-age ceremonies. This was cataclysmic. Her wolf erupted from her skin in a cascade of white light and raw power. Where normal wolves stood 5 or 6 feet at the shoulder, she towered at 9 feet. Her fur glowed like captured moonlight, each strand luminescent. When she opened her eyes, she could see the wrongness in everything around her, dark threads of corruption woven through her pack like rot through old wood. And her presence hit the assembled pack like a physical wave. 300 werewolves dropped to their knees. Even Alpha Kael collapsed, his face pressed to the dirt, neck bared in instinctive submission. The crushing weight of dominance radiating from Aria's wolf form allowed no resistance. Even the strongest alphas in the crowd whimpered. "You tried to kill the last Luna Guardian." Her wolf's voice resonated through the clearing, not spoken aloud but felt by every supernatural creature present. Ancient, wrathful, absolutely unforgiving. The moon goddess will hear of this betrayal. Terror rippled through the pack in waves. Aria could taste it on the air, acrid and sharp. Someone was crying. Several someones. The executioner had pissed himself. Good. Then a new voice cut through the chaos, powerful and commanding. "She already has." Every head turned toward the tree line. Aria's enhanced vision picked out the figure emerging from the shadows, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with lethal grace. Male wolf, alpha by the authority rolling off him in waves, but unlike any alpha she'd seen before, his presence didn't demand submission so much as expect it, the way gravity expects objects to fall. He was beautiful in a brutal way, dark hair, sharp features, eyes the color of steel, and old, not in appearance, but in the weight he carried, power that had been honed over decades, maybe centuries. "My name is Kael Thorne, Alpha King of the Northern Territories." His gaze swept over the kneeling pack with cold assessment before locking on Aria's white wolf form. Something flickered in those steel eyes, recognition, satisfaction, and an intensity that made her wolf bristle. "I've been searching for the Luna Guardian for 5 years. He took a step forward. The pack scrambled out of his way like he was radioactive. "That white Luna is mine." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "Anyone who touched her will answer to me personally." Kael's eyes found Alpha Kael, still pressed face first into the dirt. The Alpha King smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Aria had ever seen. "Starting with you." The Chapter 2. The Luna Guardian's Truth. Kael Thorne moved through the kneeling pack like a predator among prey. Nobody dared lift their heads. Even the strongest warriors kept their necks bared, instinct overriding pride. He stopped 10 feet from Aria's massive white wolf form. Up close, his power felt like standing near a bonfire. Intense, barely controlled, dangerous. But when he looked at her, his steel-gray eyes held something unexpected. Relief. "You can shift back now," he said quietly. You're safe. Safe. The word was foreign. Aria's wolf snarled in response, white light crackling around her like lightning. Safe was a lie. Safe was what got you killed. I know you don't trust anyone right now. Kael's voice remained calm, steady. But you need to hear what I have to say, what you are, and these pack members? His gaze swept the crowd with contempt. Need to understand exactly what they tried to murder. Something in his tone cut through Aria's rage. She felt her wolf retreat slightly, allowing rational thought to surface. The shift back was instinctive, her massive form condensing, bones reshaping, fur receding. Seconds later, she stood human again, naked and shaking. Kael shrugged off his leather jacket and tossed it to her without looking. The gesture was practiced, respectful. Aria caught it, wrapping the jacket around herself. It smelled like pine and winter storms. White Luna wolves, Kael addressed the pack, his voice carrying supernatural authority, are mythic guardians chosen by the moon goddess herself. They're born once every 500 years to maintain balance in our world, to break curses, purify corruption, and pass judgment on unworthy alphas who abuse their power. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Several pack members had gone pale. The last Luna Guardian was murdered 5 centuries ago by corrupt alphas who feared her ability to expose their crimes. Her name was Lyra Morningstar, and she died screaming as they burned her alive. Kael's expression was carved granite. The moon goddess swore the next guardian would have her vengeance. Aria Winters is that guardian. She is Lyra's reincarnation. That's impossible, Alpha Cole croaked from the ground. She's just a wolfless— Finish that sentence and I'll rip out your throat. Kael's tone was conversational. Aria was never wolfless. Her wolf was blocked by mystical means, placed there by someone who loved her very much. He turned to face the crowd, finding someone specific. Elena Winters, tell me, Beta Lucas, do you remember your first mate, my sister? Aria's head snapped toward her father. Lucas had gone corpse white. That's right. Kael smiled without humor. Elena was my younger sister, a seer blessed by the moon goddess with visions of the future. She predicted Aria's birth 3 years before it happened. She saw the power her daughter would possess, and she saw the corrupt forces that would try to kill Aria before those powers could manifest. The world tilted sideways. Aria gripped a piece of the broken platform for support. Elena placed a mystical block on Aria's wolf, Kael continued, designed to break only when Aria faced mortal danger at exactly 18 years old, giving her wolf time to mature in safety, hidden from those who would destroy her. My sister died protecting that secret 10 years ago. Rogue attack, Lucas whispered. It was a rogue attack. It was murder. Kael's words cracked like a whip. Assassins sent by the Shadow Council, the same corrupt organization that killed the first Luna Guardian, and you helped them, didn't you, Lucas? Married one of their spies within months of Elena's death, Margaret Thorne, formerly Margaret Blackwood of the Shadow Council's Infiltration Division. Margaret's performance of concern shattered. Her face went blank, calculating. Beside her, Celeste edged away. You let them kill my mother? Aria's voice came out broken. She looked at Lucas, at the man who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd read her bedtime stories, who'd stopped being her father the moment Elena died. You knew? Lucas's silence was answer enough. Power surged through Aria's body, responding to her anguish. Her vision sharpened into something beyond normal sight. She could see threads now, connections between people, between cause and effect. And some of those threads were rotting, corrupted, wrong. The darkness around Alpha Cole was thick as tar. She could see it now, years of embezzlement, blackmail, abuse of power, funds stolen from pack resources while families went hungry, challengers eliminated through poisoning instead of honorable combat, And Celeste. Her stepsister glowed with unnatural beauty, but underneath was a web of dark magic, witch magic, carefully woven, artificial enhancement spells, glamours, compulsion magic wrapped around. Aria's eyes locked on Damon. Her former mate stood frozen in the crowd, and she could see the magic clinging to him like oil, purple threads wrapped around his mind, his judgment, his will. An obsession potion, months old, constantly renewed. And beneath it, something else. The mate bond. Still there, damaged but not destroyed. The rejection didn't take, she whispered. Damon moved before anyone could stop him. He dropped to his knees before her, and this time his eyes were clear, horrified and clear. The moment he'd seen her true form, whatever spell held him had started breaking. Aria, his voice cracked. What have I done? I felt our bond. I swear. I felt it. But Celeste said you were dangerous, that you'd contaminate the pack bloodline, that I had to reject you for everyone's safety. I thought... You thought it was easier to believe her lies than fight for me. Aria's wolf snarled in her chest. The sound that emerged from her throat was barely human. You felt our bond and chose to humiliate me publicly anyway, to save your reputation, to keep your perfect life. I was poisoned. You were weak. The words cut like silver. Poison or not, you made a choice. You stood there and watched them try to execute me. I'll spend my life making this right. You'll spend your life living with what you did. Kael stepped between them, his presence a wall. The mate bond can be fully severed if the Luna Guardian wishes it, but that conversation is for later. Right now, Aria comes with me. She needs training to control her powers, and she needs protection from the Shadow Council, the organization that killed her mother and orchestrated today's execution attempt. He turned to Alpha Cole, still prostrate in the dirt. This pack is under formal investigation for attempted murder of a Mythic Guardian. The Council of Alphas will convene within the week. I suggest you start preparing your defense, Marcus, though I doubt it will help. You can't just take her, Alpha Cole protested weakly. I can and I am. Any objections? Kael's smile was predatory. The pack remained silent. Aria felt numb as Kael guided her toward the tree line. Everything she'd known was a lie. Her father was a traitor. Her mother had died protecting her. She was some kind of reincarnated mythical being. Her mate had been magically coerced. Her entire life had been a conspiracy. Behind them, Margaret leaned close to Celeste, whispering. The words were barely audible, meant for Celeste's ears alone, but Aria's Luna Guardian hearing caught every syllable. Let her go. We'll tell the Shadow Council she's manifested. They'll handle her, and this time, they'll make sure she actually dies. Aria stopped walking. White light began to blaze around her body, responding to her fury. She turned slowly, silver eyes locking on Margaret. I heard that. Margaret's face went slack with shock. And you just made a fatal mistake. The white light exploded outward in a pulse of pure Luna Guardian power. Margaret screamed as dark magic marks became visible across her skin. Runes and symbols burned into her flesh, proof of Shadow Council binding oaths. The marks glowed black against her skin like brands. The crowd gasped. Several pack members scrambled backward. Margaret stood revealed for what she was, a Shadow Council operative who'd been embedded in their pack for a decade, poisoning them from within. She's been here 10 years, Aria said, her voice resonating with ancient authority. 10 years of manipulation, corruption, and murder, and all of you just let her. Kael moved to her side, eyes glittering with dangerous satisfaction. Well then. This just became much more interesting. Margaret's hand went to something hidden in her jacket, a communication device, Aria realized. Calling for backup, calling for the Shadow Council to finish what they'd started. Let them come, Aria said softly. I'm done running. Chapter 3. The Shadow Council's Hunt. The Northern Territory was nothing like Blackwood Packlands, where Aria's former home had been all manicured lawns and political posturing. Kael's territory was wild, ancient forests that stretched for miles, mountains that scraped the sky, and a pack compound built from stone and timber that looked like it had grown from the earth itself. Aria stood in the training grounds at dawn, her breath misting in the cold air. Her body ached from yesterday's session, and the day before, and the day before that. "Again," Kael said from across the clearing. "I've done this 20 times already." Aria's frustration bled through. "I can sense corruption. I get it." "You can sense it when you're calm and focused." Kael moved closer, his presence steady and grounding. "But in battle, you'll be terrified, injured, overwhelmed. Your powers need to be instinctive, not something you have to concentrate on." He was right. He was always right, which was infuriating. From the top, "Show me what you see." Aria closed her eyes and let her Luna Guardian senses expand. The world transformed into threads of light and shadow, connections between living things, the health of the land, the purity of intentions. Kael's thread burned bright silver, solid as steel and just as unyielding. Beyond him, she could sense the northern warriors training nearby, their threads strong and clean. "Good," Kael murmured. "Now push deeper. What else?" She pushed, and there, a flicker of darkness at the territory's southern border. Faint, corrupted, wrong. "Shadow Council scouts," she said, opening her eyes. 3 of them, maybe 4, about 2 miles south. Kael's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe. "I had warriors confirm it an hour ago. You're getting stronger." 3 weeks. That's how long she'd been in the Northern Territory. 3 weeks of training from dawn until dusk, learning to control powers she barely understood. Kael had been patient through all of it. When she'd accidentally blown out every window in the training hall, when she'd gotten so frustrated she'd shifted and torn up half the forest, when she'd broken down crying because everything was too much and she just wanted her mother. He'd never pitied her, never coddled her, but he'd never left her to struggle alone either. "There's something I need to show you," Kael said. "A way to access deeper memories, not just yours, but the Luna Guardian who came before you." Aria's stomach tightened. "Lyra." "Yes. It won't be pleasant. You'll experience what she experienced, feel what she felt, but you need to understand what you're up against. The Shadow Council isn't new, and neither is their corruption." They moved to a private chamber deep in the compound, a circular room with a silver pool in the center that reflected moonlight even though they were underground. Ancient runes covered the walls. "This is a memory pool," Kael explained. "Built by Luna Guardians centuries ago to preserve knowledge. Your blood will unlock Lyra's memories." Aria knelt beside the pool. The silver liquid rippled at her proximity, responding to her presence. She could feel the pull of it, the weight of history waiting beneath the surface. "Will you stay?" she asked quietly. "If you want me to." "I do." Kael knelt beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. The contact grounded her. Aria pricked her finger with a silver knife and let 3 drops of blood fall into the pool. The world dissolved. She was Lyra Morningstar, 23 years old and newly bonded to Alpha Theron Blackwood. She loved him with everything she had, loved his strength, his conviction, his vision for their pack. But lately, something had changed. Theron spent hours in secret meetings with wolves she didn't recognize. When she asked about it, he brushed her off. "Trust me," he'd say. "I'm building something great. Something that will make us powerful beyond imagination." But Lyra was a Luna Guardian. She could sense the corruption growing in him like rot in old wood. The memory shifted, accelerated. The confrontation. Lyra demanding answers. Theron finally admitting the truth. He'd joined the Shadow Council, a secret organization of alphas who believed the Moon Goddess's laws were outdated. They wanted power without restriction, control without oversight. "You're my mate," Lyra pleaded. "How could you betray everything we stand for?" "I'm not betraying anything," Theron snarled. "I'm evolving. The old ways are dead, Lyra. Join us or get out of the way." She refused, threatened to expose them, believed their mate bond would protect her. She was wrong. The memory of Lyra's death slammed into Aria like a physical blow. The betrayal in Theron's eyes as he stood aside and let the other council members grab her, the silver chains, the pyre, the flames that consumed her while her mate watched without expression. "You were supposed to love me," Lyra whispered as the fire took her. "I did," Theron replied. "But I love power more." Aria gasped as the vision released her. She was back in the chamber, shaking violently, tears streaming down her face. Kael's arms wrapped around her immediately, solid and warm. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe. You're here." "He killed her," Aria's voice broke. Her own mate killed her. The Shadow Council corrupts everything it touches. They've been doing it for 500 years, infiltrating packs, recruiting alphas, eliminating anyone who threatens to expose them. Your mother discovered their presence in Blackwood Pack. That's why they killed her. That's why they tried to kill you. It's happening again. Everything Lyra went through is not going to happen to you. Kael pulled back enough to meet her eyes. His expression was fierce, protective. "You're not alone this time. You have me. You have my warriors. And I made a blood oath to my sister that I would protect the Luna Guardian with my life. I don't break my oaths." Something shifted in Aria's chest. For 3 weeks, she'd watched Kael train her, protect her, treat her as an equal. He never diminished her pain or told her to get over her trauma. He never made excuses for Damon's betrayal or suggested she should forgive her father. He simply stood beside her and believed she was strong enough to face whatever came next. She was starting to believe it too. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Kael's hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing away her tears. His eyes asked a question he wouldn't voice, wouldn't pressure her into answering. Aria's breath caught. 3 weeks ago, she would have flinched away from male touch. But this was different. He was different. The chamber door burst open. "Alpha!" A warrior stumbled in, breathing hard. "We have a situation. Someone breached the perimeter. It's Damon Cole. He's demanding to see Aria." Kyle's expression went cold. He stood smoothly, helping Aria to her feet. "Tell him to leave. He says he won't go until he speaks with her, says he's been freed from the compulsion magic and needs to make things right." Aria felt her wolf stir. Part of her wanted to hide, to avoid the confrontation, but she was a Luna Guardian now. She didn't hide from anything. "I'll see him," she said. Kael's jaw tightened. "You don't owe him anything." "I know, but I need to do this. For me." They found Damon in the main courtyard, surrounded by northern warriors with weapons drawn. He looked terrible, hollow-eyed, thinner than she remembered, desperate. The moment he saw Aria, he dropped to his knees. "Aria, please, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but—" "You're right," she cut him off. "You don't. The compulsion magic. Celeste was poisoning me for months. I wasn't in my right mind when I rejected you. You felt our bond before the poisoning started." Aria's voice was steady, certain. "You told me yourself you felt something pulling you toward me when we turned 18. That was weeks before Celeste began her manipulation. You felt the mate bond and you chose to ignore it because being with me would have hurt your reputation." Damon flinched. "I was scared. You were a coward. And when I needed you most, when I was sentenced to death, you stood there and watched, Poison didn't make you do that. Weakness did. I'll spend my life making it up to you. Our bond means nothing." Aria felt the truth of it settle in her bones. "You humiliated me publicly to save face. You let them try to execute me. The bond doesn't erase that. It doesn't fix what you broke. We're mates. I, Aria Winters, Luna Guardian of the Moon Goddess, reject you, Damon Cole, completely and permanently as my mate." The words hit like a thunderclap. Power surged through Aria, pure, cleansing Luna Guardian authority that shattered the damaged bond between them. Damon screamed, clutching his chest as the mate bond ripped away. He collapsed, convulsing in agony. Aria felt nothing but relief. Kael stepped to her side, and the contrast was stark. Where Damon lay broken by the severed bond, Kael stood strong beside her, asking for nothing, demanding nothing, simply there. "Get him out of my territory," Kael ordered. Warriors hauled Damon to his feet, dragging him toward the border. "Aria, please." Damon's voice faded as they pulled him away. She didn't look back. That night, a message arrived. A raven with Shadow Council markings landed in the courtyard with a note tied to its leg. "We have your father. Come to Blackwood Pact territory, the execution platform, alone by midnight tomorrow. Come, or Lucas Winters dies screaming." Aria stared at the message. Lucas had betrayed her mother, facilitated her abuse, let her be sentenced to death. She should feel nothing, but he was still her father. And some part of her, the part that remembered bedtime stories and piggyback rides, couldn't let him die without trying. "It's a trap," Kael said, reading over her shoulder. "I know. We'll send a strike team, 30 warriors, coordinated assault. They'll kill him the moment they sense anyone but me. Then he dies. He made his choices. And I'm making mine." Aria met Kael's eyes. "I'm a Luna Guardian. I don't abandon people to die, even people who've wronged me. That's what separates me from the Shadow Council. Aria, I'm not asking for permission." Kael's jaw worked. "Then I'm coming with you." "No, I need you to protect the territory. If this is a diversion, I don't care about the territory. I care about you." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Aria's breath caught. "Trust me," she said softly. "Please, just this once." She could see the war in his expression, duty versus desire, strategy versus emotion. Finally, he nodded. "Take a communication stone. First sign of trouble, you call for backup." "I will." She slipped out 2 hours before midnight, leaving a note. By the time Kael found it, she'd be long gone. The execution platform looked exactly the same as 3 weeks ago. Blood-stained wood, silver restraints. The place where she'd nearly died. Lucas knelt in the center, bound in silver chains that smoked against his skin. Margaret stood over him with a dozen Shadow Council operatives fanned out behind her. "The prodigal daughter returns," Margaret sneered. "Did you really think we'd let a Luna Guardian live? You're too dangerous to our plans." "Let him go," Aria said. "Your fight is with me." "Run!" Lucas's voice cracked. "Aria, please, just run." "Tried to kill me once." Aria smiled without humor. "How'd that work out?" The operatives attacked. Dark magic slammed into Aria from 6 directions at once. She shifted mid-dodge, her white wolf form erupting with power. Claws met corrupted flesh, teeth found throats. Her Luna Guardian abilities let her sense attacks before they landed, purified dark magic with her touch. Move faster than normal wolves, but there were too many, and they were using something different. Blood magic, forbidden and ancient, specifically designed to harm mythic creatures. Pain exploded through Aria's body as dark energy burned her from the inside. She stumbled, her wolf form flickering. Margaret laughed. "Did you think you were invincible? We've had 500 years to prepare for your return." Aria forced herself upright, blood dripping from multiple wounds. "Is that all you've got?" "Not quite." Margaret's smile turned vicious. "Time you learned the truth about dear old Dad. Lucas, tell her." Lucas's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Your father didn't just allow your mother's murder," Margaret continued. "He helped plan it. Elena discovered he was Shadow Counsel and threatened to expose him. Lucas chose power over his mate. He lured her into an ambush, held her down while we killed her." The world stopped. "No," Aria whispered. "Why do you think he didn't defend you at the execution?" Margaret pressed. "He's been trying to kill you for years. You were a loose end, a threat. We kept you alive until 18 just to see if you'd manifest, and when you did, we tried to eliminate you. Lucas gave the execution order himself." Aria looked at her father. "Tell me she's lying." Lucas's silence was deafening, then barely audible. "I thought if I joined them, they'd leave you alone. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The confession shattered something fundamental in Aria's chest. Her concentration broke, her defenses dropped. "If you're yet to respond to my previous question, before we continue, I'd like to know who's watching this at night and who in the morning. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one." The Shadow Council operatives struck as one, blood magic converging on her vulnerable form. Aria screamed as dark energy flooded through her, forcing her back to human form, pinning her to the execution platform where she'd nearly died before. Margaret raised a ceremonial blade. "Any last words, Luna Guardian?" Then a roar split the night, primal, furious, absolutely devastating. "Get away from my Luna!" Kael exploded from the tree line with an army at his back. 50 northern warriors poured into the clearing like a tidal wave of fur and fangs. The Alpha King's power rolled over everyone present, forcing weaker wolves to their knees. But Kael's eyes were only on Aria, and in them burned something far more dangerous than Alpha authority, pure, protective rage. Chapter 4. Blood and Betrayal. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Kael's northern warriors hit the Shadow Council operatives like an avalanche, 50 wolves against a dozen, but these weren't ordinary enemies. The Council fighters moved with unnatural speed, their bodies wrapped in dark magic that turned claws aside and shrugged off killing blows. Kael fought like a force of nature, his massive black wolf tearing through enemies with surgical precision. But his focus never wavered from Aria, still pinned to the execution platform by blood magic that glowed like infected wounds against her skin. He shifted mid-leap, landing human beside her and slamming his hand against the dark energy. It burned him, smoke rising from his palm, but he didn't flinch. "I've got you. You shouldn't have come," Aria gasped. "Like hell I shouldn't." He broke through the first layer of the spell, and Aria could breathe again. "I knew you'd try something idiotic. Had warriors tracking you since you left." Despite the pain, Aria almost smiled. "Idiotic?" "Heroic," he amended. "Idiotic, heroic." Together, they rose. Aria shifted, her white wolf blazing with power even through her injuries. The moment she and Kael stood side by side, something shifted in the battle. Alpha King and Luna Guardian, their combined dominance rolled over the clearing like thunder. 3 council operatives simply collapsed, unable to withstand the pressure. But Margaret stood untouched, protected by a shimmering dome of dark energy. She smiled. "Did you really think we wouldn't prepare for this?" Margaret's hands moved in complex patterns, tracing symbols in the air that burned with black light. 500 years we've waited, 500 years we've planned, and now— The symbols converged. "We end this bloodline forever." Dark magic exploded from Margaret in a wave that bypassed every wolf except Aria. The corruption ritual, designed specifically to target Luna Guardians. It slammed into Aria like a physical blow, and she screamed as power that had taken 18 years to manifest began tearing away from her soul. Kael lunged at Margaret, but the dome repelled him. He shifted, attacked again, claws scoring the barrier but not breaking through. "Aria! It hurts!" Aria's white wolf form flickered, dimming. The ritual was working. She could feel her Luna Guardian essence being ripped out piece by agonizing piece. "Kael, I can't—" "Yes, you can!" He slammed against the barrier again, roaring, "Fight it!" Across the clearing, Lucas watched his daughter dying. The silver chains binding him had gone slack. Everyone was too focused on the ritual to pay attention to one prisoner. He could run, save himself, leave Aria to the fate he'd helped orchestrate. Instead, he spoke. "I was 17 when they recruited me." Lucas's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone froze. "The Shadow Council promised me power, status, a position of importance. I was just a low-ranking warrior then, nothing special. They made me feel chosen." "Shut up," Margaret hissed. "Elena discovered the truth 3 years after we mated." Lucas's face twisted with self-loathing. "She was a seer." "She knew what I'd done, what the council was planning. She threatened to expose us, to expose me. The council gave me a choice: prove my loyalty by helping eliminate her or die beside her." Aria's wolf went still. Even through the agony of the corruption ritual, she needed to hear this. "I told myself I was doing it to protect you," Lucas continued, "that if I stayed with the council, I could keep you safe. So I lured Elena into an ambush, held her while they—" His voice broke. "She looked at me as she died. Didn't beg, didn't curse me, just looked at me like she knew this was who I'd always been." "Touching confession," Margaret snarled, "but it changes nothing. I kept Aria alive until she turned 18. Lucas met his daughter's silver eyes. "The council wanted her dead at birth. I convinced them to wait, to see if she'd even manifest as a Luna Guardian. Bought her 18 years. Thought maybe she wouldn't shift, maybe she'd be normal, maybe she'd be safe." "You sentenced me to execution," Aria managed through gritted teeth. "I know, because once you manifested, I had no more arguments. The council would have killed us both if I'd refused. I'm a coward, Aria. I chose survival over you, just like I chose it over Elena." "Enough!" Margaret's hands moved faster, pouring more power into the corruption ritual. Aria's scream tore through the clearing. Her white fur was nearly gray now, her light dimming. Kael made his decision in a heartbeat. He cut his palm with his claws, then pressed his bloodied hand to Aria's wolf form. Ancient words poured from his mouth, a ritual so old most wolves had forgotten it existed. The Alpha King's oath of unity, reserved for mates who chose to bind their lives together completely. "What are you doing?" Aria gasped. "Sharing your burden." Kael's power flooded into her, wrapping around the corruption ritual like chains. The dark magic hesitated, confused by the presence of Alpha King essence mixing with Luna Guardian power. "It's designed to kill one wolf. Let's see how it handles two." The ritual split between them. Agony exploded through Kael's body. He felt his wolf screaming, felt the dark magic trying to tear away pieces of his soul. But it was working. The curse that would have killed Aria in minutes would take hours to kill them both. "You idiot!" Aria breathed. "You're dying! With you!" Kael's wolf pressed against hers, their power intertwining. "I didn't search for you for 5 years just to lose you now. We live together or we die together." Margaret's confidence flickered. "This isn't possible. The ritual is perfect. Nothing's perfect." Aria felt something shift inside her. The corruption ritual was still killing her, still tearing away her power. But Kael's presence changed everything. She wasn't alone. Hadn't been alone since the moment he'd appeared in Blackwood Pack territory and claimed her. And suddenly, she understood. Lyra had died because she'd faced the Shadow Council alone, betrayed by her mate, isolated from her pack, with no one to stand beside her. The Luna Guardian's power had been overwhelming but ultimately insufficient against enemies willing to sacrifice everything to destroy her. But Aria wasn't alone. She had Kael, who'd bound his life to hers without hesitation. She had Northern warriors who'd followed their Alpha King into battle to save her. She even had Lucas, broken and guilt-ridden, finally choosing truth over survival. The Luna Guardian's true power wasn't individual strength. It was unity, connection, the ability to purify corruption through bonds of genuine loyalty and love. "Kael," Aria said softly, "I need you to trust me. Always. Then open your connection to your warriors, all of them." Understanding flashed in his eyes. Through the Alpha King bond that connected him to every Northern Territory wolf, Kael opened himself completely. Aria felt the rush of dozens of consciousnesses, warriors still fighting, wolves who'd sworn loyalty to their king. And through Kael, Aria spoke to all of them. "The corruption ritual will kill me. But if you're willing to share the burden, to accept part of the curse, we can distribute the weight across all of us. What would kill one Luna Guardian becomes manageable when carried by many." "It will hurt," she warned. "You might die. I'm not ordering this. I'm asking." The response was immediate and overwhelming. For our Luna Guardian came the unified response, "We bear this gladly." 50 Northern warriors opened themselves to Aria's power. The corruption ritual, designed to target one Luna Guardian, suddenly found itself spread across dozens of wolves. What should have been a killing blow became a manageable poison when distributed through willing hearts. And as the curse spread thin, Aria's power surged. White light exploded from her body, not to fight the darkness, but to purify it. The corruption ritual transformed, its dark magic burning away under the combined will of wolves united in purpose. The light spread through every warrior who'd accepted part of her burden, then beyond them, rippling outward like a tsunami of purification. Across the continent, Shadow Council operatives screamed as silver brands burned into their flesh, visible marks of corruption that no magic could hide. Safe houses were exposed. Secret agents found themselves branded. Every wolf touched by Shadow Council darkness lit up like beacons. The conspiracy that had operated in shadows for 500 years stood revealed. Margaret's dome shattered. She staggered backward, her own dark magic turning against her. "No, this isn't. You can't." Aria shifted human, her white hair glowing like starlight. Power radiated from her in waves, not diminished by the corruption ritual, but amplified. Strengthened by the bonds she'd formed, the loyalty she'd earned, the love she'd accepted. "I am Luna, guardian of the moon goddess." Her voice resonated with ancient authority. "And I judge you, Margaret Blackwood." She raised her hand. White light blazed. "For the murder of Aria Winters, my mother, a seer, and an innocent, for the abuse and torture of a child under your care, for conspiracy with the Shadow Council to corrupt and destroy, for the attempted murder of a mythic guardian, I deliver justice." The light slammed into Margaret. She screamed as Aria's power tore through her, not killing but unmaking, stripping away the dark magic that had augmented her for years, burning out the corruption that had defined her, and finally severing her connection to her wolf entirely. Margaret collapsed, suddenly human and powerless. The same fate she'd tried to impose on Aria turned back on her 100-fold. "You took my wolf," Aria said quietly. "Every day of my childhood, you made me believe I was worthless for not having one. Now you'll spend the rest of your life understanding exactly what you put me through." The Northern warriors rounded up the surviving council operatives. Most surrendered immediately, unwilling to face the Luna Guardian's judgment. Within minutes, the battle was over. Kael pulled Aria into his arms, and she sagged against him. The corruption ritual was purified, but the toll of channeling that much power left her shaking. "You did it," he murmured against her hair. "You incredible, terrifying, brilliant woman." "We did it," she corrected. A rasping laugh drew their attention. One of the council operatives, an older wolf with a sucking chest wound, grinned with blood-stained teeth. "You think you've won?" He coughed, blood bubbling on his lips. "The Shadow Council has been preparing for a Luna Guardian's return for 500 years. We have a weapon that killed the last one, and it will kill you too." Aria knelt beside him. "What weapon?" "It's already in motion." His eyes were glazing. "Already chosen, already activated. You stopped the corruption ritual, but the Bloodline Curse—" He choked, then went still. "Bloodline Curse?" Kael's voice was sharp. The operative didn't answer. He was dead. Silence fell over the clearing. Victory suddenly tasted like ash. "Whatever it is," Kael said finally, pulling Aria close. "We face it together." Aria looked around, at the Northern warriors who'd risked their lives for her, at the Blackwood Pack members now watching her with awe instead of contempt, at Lucas kneeling in the dirt with tears streaming down his face, and at Kael, whose feelings burned clear in his eyes. "Together," she agreed. But in the shadows at the clearing's edge, unnoticed by anyone, Celeste watched with hatred burning in her eyes. Her hand clutched a dark artifact, a crystalline blade that pulsed with malevolent energy. The Shadow Council's true leader had given it to her 3 days ago, along with very specific instructions. And Celeste, consumed by jealousy and rage at losing everything to her worthless stepsister, fully intended to follow them. Chapter 5. The Luna's Reign. The ancient texts in Kael's library smelled like dust and forgotten secrets. Aria traced her fingers over crumbling pages, searching for answers about the weapon that had killed Lyra Morningstar 500 years ago. "Here." Kael pointed to an illustration, a crystalline blade wreathed in black flames. "The Bloodline Curse. It's not a spell you cast, it's a physical artifact that requires activation." "Activation? How?" "Blood sacrifice from someone of the Luna Guardian's own family." His jaw tightened. "The curse targets the Guardian's bloodline specifically, unraveling it from the inside. Lyra died screaming as her own blood turned to poison." Aria's stomach dropped. "My family is dead. My mother. And Lucas might as well be. Step-family counts." Kael's eyes met hers. "Blood doesn't have to be direct. Margaret raised you. That created a mystical connection. Margaret's powerless now, stripped of her wolf. But Celeste isn't." The realization hit like ice water. Celeste, who'd hated Aria since childhood, Celeste, who'd lost Damon, lost her artificial beauty, lost everything when Aria manifested as Luna Guardian, Celeste, who'd disappeared after the battle 3 days ago. "They've been grooming her," Aria whispered. "The Shadow Council. They knew they might need a backup plan." Kael was already moving, shouting orders to his warriors. "Lock down the territory, find Celeste, and get a security detail on Aria immediately." "Too late for that," a new voice said. Elder Marcus Thorne stepped from the shadows. He was older than Kael by 20 years, with silver streaking his dark hair and power radiating from him like heat shimmer. Aria had met him once. Kael's uncle, a respected elder who'd seemed grandfatherly and kind. The kindness was gone now. Only cold calculation remained. "Hello, nephew." Marcus smiled. "I see you figured it out. Took you long enough." "You?" Kael's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You're the Shadow Council's leader. For 40 years, since your father stole what should have been mine." Marcus's expression twisted with old bitterness. "The Alpha King bloodline was meant to pass through my sister. Kael's mother was supposed to be nothing but a breeding mare, but your father loved her. Chose her. Gave her the crown that belonged to my bloodline. So you've spent 4 decades building a conspiracy?" Aria couldn't comprehend that level of sustained hatred. Killing innocents? Corrupting packs? "Building an empire," Marcus corrected, "one where strength matters more than sentiment, where alphas rule without interference from outdated moon goddess restrictions. Lyra tried to stop us 500 years ago. We burned her, and now—" The doors burst open. Celeste walked in holding the crystalline blade. Dark magic crawled over her skin like living shadow, and her eyes burned with the same corrupted light Aria had seen in Margaret. The Shadow Council had poured everything they had left into her. Decades of stored power, forbidden magic, the accumulated hatred of every operative Aria had exposed. "Hello, sister," Celeste said. "Miss me?" Kael moved to intercept, but Marcus was faster. Dark magic slammed into him, pinning him against the wall. Other council operatives poured in, a final assault force, suicide troops willing to die if it meant killing the Luna Guardian. "The Council of Alphas meeting starts in 1 hour, Marcus said conversationally. "Every major pack leader in North America will be there to officially recognize Aria as Luna Guardian. What a perfect moment for her to die. In front of everyone, killed by her own stepsister. The symbolism alone will destroy faith in Luna Guardians for another 500 years. "You won't get near that meeting," Aria snarled, shifting into her white wolf form. "We're already there." Marcus gestured, and a portal of dark magic opened. Emergency transport spell, forbidden because of how much power it consumed. "Celeste has been inside the council chambers for an hour, hidden by illusion magic. This conversation? Just a distraction while she gets into position." The portal snapped shut. Aria didn't hesitate. She crashed through the window in a spray of glass and hit the ground running. The council chambers were 2 miles away. She could make it in minutes if she pushed her Luna Guardian speed to its limit. Kael's roar followed her. "Aria, wait!" But there was no time to wait. She burst into the council chambers just as Celeste dropped her illusion. 50 alpha leaders spun toward the threat, but Celeste was already moving. She slashed her palm with the crystalline blade and spoke words in a language older than civilization. The Bloodline Curse activated. Dark magic erupted from the blade like a shockwave, bypassing every wolf in the room except Aria. It slammed into her with the force of an avalanche. She shifted human involuntarily, collapsing as the curse burrowed into her bloodline like acid. This was different from the corruption ritual. That had tried to strip her power away. This was trying to unmake her existence, rewriting her blood, turning her own life force against her. She could feel it spreading through her veins like poison, killing her cell by cell. "Aria!" Someone was screaming her name. Kael exploded into the chamber, his wolf form massive and enraged. He'd torn through Marcus's restraints and run fast enough to collapse buildings in his wake. He shifted mid-leap and crashed to his knees beside Aria. "No," he growled. "Not again. Not you." "Can't stop it," Aria gasped. The curse was designed specifically for Luna Guardians. Every defense she had was useless against it. Kael made his decision instantly. He bit into his own wrist, then pressed the bleeding wound to Aria's mouth. Ancient words poured from him. Not just the unity oath from before, but something deeper. The eternal bond, reserved for mates who chose to permanently intertwine their souls. "By blood and bond, by choice and fate, I claim you as my mate and Luna. Your life is mine, your death is mine, your burden is mine." Power flooded between them. The Bloodline Curse hesitated, confused by Alpha King essence mixing with Luna Guardian blood. Then it split, attacking them both. Kael's face went gray with pain. "Didn't search for you for 5 years just to lose you now." We live together or die together." "You stubborn idiot," Aria whispered, but she was crying. Around them, the Council of Alphas watched in stunned silence. This was their first glimpse of the Luna Guardian, and she was dying along with the Alpha King who'd bound his life to hers. Then one Alpha stepped forward. "If the Alpha King can share her burden," said Alpha Theron Blackwood, Marcus's son, a reformer who'd spent years trying to root out his family's corruption, "so can we." He cut his palm and placed his bloodied hand on Aria's shoulder. "I accept part of the Luna Guardian's curse, willingly." Another Alpha joined him, then another. Within seconds, a dozen pack leaders surrounded Aria, each offering their blood, their strength, their lives to share the burden that would kill her. And through Kael's bond, Aria felt the Northern Territory wolves responding, hundreds of them, opening themselves to her power, accepting pieces of the curse. The Bloodline Curse, designed to kill one Luna Guardian, suddenly found itself distributed across hundreds of wolves. What should have been a killing blow became a manageable poison when carried by willing hearts, and Aria understood, finally and completely, what it meant to be Luna Guardian. Not individual power, not solitary strength, but the ability to unite wolves through genuine bonds, to inspire the kind of loyalty that made strangers willing to die for you. White light exploded from her body. She didn't fight the curse. She purified it. Let it flow through her and out into every wolf who'd accepted part of her burden, transforming dark magic into cleansing fire. The light spread like a tsunami, through the council chambers, through the Northern Territory, across the entire continent. Every Shadow Council operative screamed as silver brands burned into their flesh. Safe houses were exposed. Secret agents were revealed. The conspiracy that had hidden for 5 centuries stood naked under the moon goddess's judgment. And in the council chambers, Celeste dropped the crystalline blade with a scream. The curse had reversed, reflected back on her by the power of hundreds united against it. Marcus tried to flee. Kael caught him in the courtyard. Uncle and nephew faced each other, Alpha King and Shadow Council leader, family torn apart by ambition and betrayal. "The Alpha King bloodline was meant to be mine," Marcus snarled. "Your father took everything." "My father earned his position," Kael shot back. "You were offered a place at his side. You chose revenge instead." They clashed in a blur of claws and fury. Kael was younger, faster, but Marcus had 4 decades of dark magic augmenting his strength. They were evenly matched until Aria joined the fight. She didn't need to strike, just her presence, blazing with purified Luna Guardian power, made Marcus's dark magic recoil. His augmented strength failed. His decades of stored power burned away under white light. Kael pinned him. "Yield." "Never." "Then I'll make you." Aria knelt beside Marcus, her silver eyes filled with ancient authority. "For 40 years of corruption, for the murder of innocents, for conspiracy to kill a Luna Guardian, I deliver justice." White light blazed. Marcus screamed as his wolf was stripped away, as his dark magic burned out of him, as he was reduced to human and powerless. Everything he'd feared becoming, everything he'd spent his life fighting against. "You'll stand trial before every Alpha you betrayed," Aria said quietly, "and you'll spend whatever life remains knowing you destroyed your own family for nothing." Inside the chambers, Celeste collapsed in Damon's arms. He'd been fighting council operatives, trying to redeem himself through action, if not through forgiveness. "Let me go," Celeste sobbed. "Just let me die." "No," Aria said, returning. She knelt before her stepsister, this girl who'd tormented her for years, who'd just tried to kill her. "You have a choice. Accept judgment and redemption, or flee and be hunted forever." "Redemption?" Celeste laughed bitterly. "After what I've done? Justice isn't vengeance, it's balance." Aria placed her hand on Celeste's head. White light shimmered. I'm stripping away the artificial enhancements the Shadow Council gave you. Your real wolf, your real strength, those remain. What you do with them is your choice. Why spare me? Because someone showed me mercy once. Aria glanced at Kael. And because killing you would make me exactly what the Shadow Council feared, a guardian who chooses death over redemption. Celeste broke down crying. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. I'll spend my life making this right. See that you do. 3 months later, Aria stood before the Grand Council of Alphas, officially recognized as Luna Guardian, the first in 500 years. But she didn't stand alone. Kael stood beside her, his hand in hers. The mate mark clear on both their necks, not her superior, her equal partner. Together they'd restructured werewolf society, rooting out the last Shadow Council remnants, establishing Omega rights, creating systems where strength was measured in character rather than raw power. And today they were returning to Blackwood Pact territory. The execution platform was gone. In its place, a memorial garden bloomed, flowers and trees surrounding a marble monument engraved with names. Aria Winters topped the list, followed by hundreds of Shadow Council victims whose deaths were finally acknowledged. Lucas tended the garden daily, his self-imposed penance for crimes that could never be forgiven, only atoned for through action. The pack assembled as Aria walked through territory that had once been her prison. They didn't meet her eyes, shame and awe in equal measure. You tried to execute me for being wolfless, Aria said, her voice carrying supernatural authority. Called me defective, contaminated, worthless. But I was chosen by the moon goddess herself. Remember this. Strength isn't about who shifts first or who has the loudest roar. It's about who stands back up when the world tries to break them. Kael wrapped his arm around her waist. The pack that threw you away would beg to have you back. Aria smiled, her hand resting on her stomach where their pup grew, a child who'd carry both Alpha King and Luna Guardian bloodlines. They had their chance. I belong to the Northern Territory now. I belong with wolves who see my worth. As they turned to leave, a small voice stopped them. Luna Guardian? A young girl approached nervously, maybe 13, thin and frightened, with the hollow look of someone who'd been called worthless too many times, an Omega who hadn't shifted yet. Will I ever have a wolf? The girl whispered. Aria knelt, bringing herself to eye level. I didn't shift until I was 18. I was called every cruel name you can imagine. Wolfless, defective, contaminated. But when my wolf finally came, she was worth the wait? She touched the girl's forehead. White light glimmered briefly, and Aria could sense the truth. This child's wolf was powerful, just waiting for the right moment. Your wolf is there, Aria said gently. She's just waiting for the right moment, and when she comes, she'll be magnificent. Hope blazed in the girl's eyes, pure and bright and unbreakable. As Aria and Kael walked away, the girl watched her Luna Guardian disappear into the forest, the wolfless reject who'd survived execution and become the most powerful wolf in North America. And in that moment, watching Aria's white hair catch the sunlight like a crown, the girl believed. Because if Aria Winters could rise from an execution platform to reshape their entire world, anyone could. The age of the Luna Guardian had begun. And it would be glorious.